Thank you all for the amazing love and encouragement that you provided in my last video. And I think that about 99% of comments were very positive and very encouraging, and only 1% were hate comments. And I was actually surprised. I thought that a lot more people are going to hate me for it, but I guess I did something that wasn't that audacious. I should be trying harder next time. Anyhow, so I promise to you that I'll be doing a comparative analysis about the SBI PO job, about all the pros and cons. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. And you might have noticed that in my last video, I didn't respond to any of the comments. Usually that's not the case, isn't it? So I feel like the time to respond has not come yet. And well, let's hope that the time to respond comes before the 10 years are over. Hi, this is Supriyo. So the positives and the negatives of the SBI PO job, the pros and the cons. I feel sometimes like I could write a book on this subject, but I'll try to keep it short, and I'll try to give you information that is gathered from my personal anecdotes. So you might have read a lot on Quora, and there is a lot out there about this job. So I'll just summarize things from my own perspective. And since we had a connection with the number 7 in the last video, let us have 7 negative points and 7 positive points. So first, let us start with the negatives of the SBI PO job. The first negative, of course, is the work pressure. And this is something that is widely known, that the SBI PO job has a lot of work pressure. And of course, it is a very subjective kind of thing, because as an ex-IT employee, I can tell you that compared with the IT life, the bank life does not have a lot of work pressure, because I feel like people who complain a lot about the work pressure at SBI, they have never worked as a production support engineer at the IT companies, and people who are watching and have done that will be knowing how hard those kinds of jobs are, and compared to that, it's not that much. So when you are a PO, in your PO years, before you are confirmed, usually you will have to report at 10 a.m. and your working hours officially get over at 5, but you will have to do a lot of additional things that are expected from you if you plan your time correctly, and if you have set a goal for yourself, then by 6 p.m. it will be easy for you to leave the office. Now a lot of people will be leaving before that as well, even at 5:30 some people might be able to leave, and this is up to the boss and the working culture at your particular branch. But mostly if you are intelligent and if you are not taking all the additional responsibility that is given to you, then you will be able to do this. And now remember that if you have to leave at 6 p.m. every single day, then you have to defy your manager, and the manager would not like it, but you have to remain firm. If you are remaining firm and if you are following this, then slowly people will understand that it is up to you and you are not somebody to be messed with. Now this is a very controversial point, and a lot of people might feel that it's impossible to do, but I have successfully done that, and a lot of my friends have also done it. So I know that it can be done, but of course if your manager, your branch manager is a tyrant, then it won't be possible. And of course after your PO years are over, when you become a confirmed officer, then these kinds of things become much harder to do. Then you have to stay till about 8 p.m. or sometimes 9 p.m., 9:30, even 10 p.m. It might be possible that you will be given a lot of work by your regional manager, because at that point of time either you're a branch manager or you're a field officer, somewhere like that, and you have to just listen to all the instructions from your regional office, and it becomes very, very hard to ignore those kinds of things that are told to you. So you will of course have to work a lot more when you become a confirmed officer. So the work pressure, it steadily goes up, and that is why the first 2 years of your SBI PO life, when you are not yet confirmed, you have to use very well if you want to just excel in some other examinations. So let's move to the next thing, which is the future chairman syndrome. Now this syndrome, this is something that you are going to hear from the day that you enter SBI. You are going to be referred to as a future chairman of the bank. Now we know that not everybody can be a future chairman, and becoming a chairman of a bank, this is something that will take you 25 years, 30 years, more than that sometimes. So this is a long-term goal, but nobody seems to talk about the short-term goals. So short-term, what is your life going to be like? what are the options that are available to you. This is why I made the video on bank privatization, and there I have talked a lot about these kinds of things, about the opportunities that a PO can actually avail. These things are never talked about, and it's not public knowledge. So always people will be saying to you that you can become the head of the bank, but that is so far away. So people will be focusing on the long term. They will think about what can happen in a long span of time. And of course, if you are working for 10-15 years, you are going to become a very important part of the bank. But before that happens, your short term life, the difficulties of the short term life, I don't think that many people realize those difficulties, and certainly it is not something that people talk about. So this is a problem that I have noticed happening almost everywhere. Now the third thing is the bureaucracy. Now bureaucracy, when I talk about bureaucracy just in a video, you will not be able to understand the extreme version that is there in public sector banks generally, and of course in SBI. So for example, I'll just give you a short example that you might have a situation where you will be going for a leased accommodation, right? And the paperwork that is involved in that leased accommodation, the things that you have to fill up, the amount of signatures that are needed, then you have to send that, you have to actually by post send that to your regional office will clear it, then send it back to you, and you have so many other formalities. And these kinds of things can take a lot of time, and in the same point of time you are also working on so many things in the bank, and it becomes difficult. Bureaucracy is certainly a very challenging aspect of this job, and in recent years it has become a little better because they have made some changes whereby a lot of the things are taken care of digitally, but still there is a lot of bureaucracy. I have seen people not getting their fitments, I have seen people not getting their annual increments on time. Of course these things will be given to you because they are your entitlements, but you have to fight for that. You actually have to be worried about that. You have to constantly battle with the management so that they get your work done. So these things sometimes can become very frustrating for a newly joined SBI PO. The next thing is the unpredictability. Now when we talk about unpredictability, I think a few of you might have read my blog where I mentioned that the day that we had actually gone into SBI, our first day, on the very next day we were supposed to report to our branches without giving us much time. So unpredictability will always be there. So I remember these kinds of situations very well. There were multiple such situations which actually happened to me. So sometimes it would happen that I would be reporting for my job at the morning, and then suddenly my phone would ring and it would be the HR manager. He would be calling me and telling me to go to a branch which is 160 kilometer or 200 kilometer away on that very same day. Now I had a lot of fights with the management regarding these things, but you cannot change the structure that is actually there in the bank. So you can fight, of course you can push back, you can try and make some kind of stability into your life, but you have to get on with the fact that your life is going to be a little bit unpredictable. You might have to travel suddenly, your bag must always be packed. So you cannot always think that okay, my life is very fixed and I will be just going to my office, I'll be performing my duties and that will be the end of it. No, that might not happen. And especially true for the beginning part of your career. For the beginning 3 to 4 years, you are going to see these kind of situations a lot. Later on, a little stabilization does come, but still you have to be ready at any moment to go to any branch and assume any kind of responsibility. There have been certain cases where I had to move from my branch to a branch 160 kilometer away for a certain kind of activity. Now I can't reveal the exact specifics of course, but if I didn't go, then a major crisis could have happened. So I had to go, and these kinds of situations will always happen, and this unpredictable nature of your life, this is a reality that you have to deal with. Now the next thing, it is that SBI demands yes men only. So you must be somebody who is not willing to actually argue with the management, and this is an issue that became very problematic with me because I am a person with a lot of opinions and I always used to speak my mind. Now these kinds of things are discouraged in SBI because you are expected to follow the laid down guidelines and not deviate from that path. So if you have any new ideas, if you want to give some new suggestions, then SBI is going to be very slow to actually adapt to these things, and this is a reality that you have to deal with. This is how the bank is actually structured, and I don't think that it is possible right now to change this aspect of the bank because it is too ingrained in the DNA of the bank. So you might have a situation where a new app is launched or some kind of a new product is launched, and you just have to sing praises of that product. product. If that product has some kind of problem, technical problems that you want to fix, you cannot bring it up because the management will not like to hear the negatives of those kinds of things. So yes men are certainly preferred in SBI, and it is also a very geriatric institution. By this, what I mean is that a lot of people that are in the decision making roles are very old. So most of the people, they are above 40, some above 50, and this is why it happens that the bank is not always thinking about the cutting edge things, and the youth generation, the young generation, they are slowly entering the bank, but still it's not going to be an overnight affair, right? Because this is something that has actually occurred because of the years of hiring freeze that had happened. New blood was not actually inducted for a long period of time, and right now the situation is slowly getting rectified. So maybe in the next 5 years or maybe in the next 10 years this thing can change, but as of now it is not something that is good about the organization. And also remember something, that when I talk about the geriatric institution, I also talk about the branches. So a young person, when they go to a branch, this is something that I used to feel and my friends also used to feel. We would sometimes feel alienated because the people who are in the branch, the other people, most of them are above 40, so they have some other expectations from life. It is very difficult to match with the frequency of those people, so young people might feel a lot alienated, and especially if you are in a state which is far away from your home state, then this kind of feeling can be magnified. Now coming to the fifth point, it is the officer versus clerk distinction. Now this is a big issue in the bank, and there is a certain kind of delineation between an officer and a clerk. An officer is somebody who can work 24/7, but a clerical staff cannot work for that time. They have fixed hours, and even if they go, then you cannot question them. Now these kinds of things are exacerbated because of the presence of unions. Now the clerical union is quite strong while the officer union is not that strong. So these are the kinds of clashes that happen between officers and clerks, and it can also happen that sometimes when you have a disagreement with somebody in your branch, a clerical staff, then your branch manager will always speak in favor of the clerical staff and not for you, and that moment you can feel very alienated and it can be a little bit difficult. And this is a problem that they are trying to fix, because I feel that the bank is promoting more officers. They want a lot more officers and less number of clerks in the bank, so this will actually help the organization to move forward, but as of now this problem still remains. The sixth thing, the social mandate in a market economy. Now remember that our Indian economy, it is a mixed economy of course, but still in SBI you have a social mandate, so you have to work for the poor. And sometimes what happens is, when you are mixing a social mandate with a market economy, then these things are totally different, and it is very difficult for you to actually just achieve all the targets in both of these things. So for a social mandate, you might have a target that you have to open 100 Atal Pension Yojana accounts. Now you can go and do that, but at the same time, because of the market economy, you might also be asked to give 20 loans, high ticket loans, and these two things, they are mutually exclusive, right? Are you going to work for the empowerment of the bottom section of the society, or are you going to achieve your big targets, your big financial targets that will help the shareholders? So this is a conflict that I have seen in the bank, and it is something that is a very worrying kind of feature. And the final part, the final negative, it is the arbitrary government regulations. Now these kinds of things are something that nobody can escape from, because the government of India is very indecisive, and they will be changing a lot of things suddenly and arbitrarily, and you don't have a say in that. Also remember that you cannot criticize the government while you are in the bank. There is a social mandate, there is a social media policy that is in place, and that is why you cannot speak against the bank or against the government, so you cannot express your opinion as well. And I'll just give you a small example. So for example, the Aadhaar, all the things regarding the linkage of the Aadhaar, we used to link the Aadhaars, and it was a painstaking effort in the bank because of the software involved to actually link the Aadhaars. But then the Supreme Court ruled something, and they struck down a few clauses of the Aadhaar Act, and at that time all the work that we had done for the past 2 years became nullified. So it can be very disheartening because you have worked so much in the last 2 years. Imagine that you have put maybe 1,000 hours into this thing, and suddenly the government says that it is no longer in effect. It can actually just be a very challenging thing to deal with. Now let us move to the positives, because we have talked a lot about the negatives. So let's talk a little bit about why the SBI PO job is still something that is worth going after. The first thing to talk about obviously is the salary and the perks. Now I have talked a lot about the salary and the perks, and I have made a full video on it, so go check it out. I don't want to just talk a lot about these things because everybody knows you are getting a lot of salary in SBI, and I know few bankers will be saying that bankers are underpaid, but I don't really feel, because where else can you get a job where at the entry level you are actually getting paid more than 10 lakhs per annum in your gross pay. Now that's a lot of money, and you have a lot of different things by which you can earn as well. There are a lot of incentive structures, there are a lot of perks in place. So I don't think that financially it is any kind of bad choice. If you want to work for a few years in SBI, you are going to have some amount of bank balance at least. Now the second thing is the social status. So this is also something that is extremely good about SBI, and it can be especially good for somebody who is actually looking to get married. So if you are in need of a prospective groom or bride, then it is going to be very feasible for you to get that, because socially you are going to be accepted as one of the best people in the community. And I still remember that when I got the job, I used to have random people coming up to me and just asking me about life and about how the work is, and I didn't even know these people. This is because an SBI PO, a bank officer, actually enjoys a lot of respect in society, and there were many funny incidents that happened. Just imagine that you are driving along on a motorbike in Goa, and you suddenly get stopped by a policeman, and this policeman, instead of booking you, when you are showing your ID card to that policeman, he is actually not booking you but asking you how his son can get selected in the State Bank of India. These kinds of things I am sure have happened to people. So if you are a SBI PO watching this, I am sure that you have sometimes experienced these things, and socially you are going to be very connected. And especially if you are in a rural or a semi-urban branch, then people sometimes feel that you are equivalent to the government. So whatever you say, you can actually think that they are saying that it's coming from the government. So they have a lot of trust in you, and I hope that people don't misuse this trust. Unfortunately, it does happen, but this is a position of extremely high trust, and society values you a lot. This is something nobody can deny about an SBI PO job. The third thing is that you are going to feel the pulse of the Indian economy. You are going to work inside a branch that is serving thousands of people. You will be having so many customers from every section of society. You are going to give loans to the underprivileged people. You are going to give education loans and secure the future of so many children. You are actually going to help to create an actual impact in the lives of other people, and you are going to enjoy that aspect, because I immensely loved it. And almost in every branch, if you mention my name, they are surely going to still remember me, because I loved helping people while I was there. And you are going to also get an opportunity to serve society. So this is also very important, that when you are inside a branch, you get the option of meeting so many different people. Now I have a lot of stories of meeting people that I love, and maybe someday I'll be sharing them. It's not relevant to this video, but you are going to meet so many people with so many interesting stories. And of course, if you work in the bank, move to a higher position, you are going to be in a position in which you can oversee a lot of the economy, and you are going to learn so much about the Indian economy, how it works, how the grassroots can get benefited from financial education, financial awareness, and you will certainly feel very proud of having done that job in SBI. Now the fifth thing is that you are going to get excellent sales skills. Now this is also something that is very interesting, that you have a lot of products and services in the bank that you are expected to market. So your sales skills, your marketing skills, these things will definitely get improved, because after all, the bank must make profit, and you are somebody who is responsible for the bank making profit. If you are an officer, you are actually responsible to drive up the business of the bank. So you are expected to actually go out, talk with people, meet people, give them advice, and then tell them how to invest their money, because people will be trusting you with their money, and and you have so many products and services that you can offer to these people. So of course your sales skills will be developed because you also have targets. So once you become confirmed officer, you will be having monthly targets, and these things, if you approach and if you can actually achieve these kinds of targets, then your sales skills will definitely go through the roof. Now the sixth point is that it's an excellent workplace for women. This is especially true because in SBI women are highly respected. I know female colleagues who are heading branches and each and every person respects them. I know some people, some older generation men might be there who are not actually comfortable with a female authority figure, but this is changing, and SBI has a very strict sexual harassment policy. So every woman is actually taken care of in SBI, and you can feel perfectly safe while you are working in the bank. And of course the bank will give preference to its female officers, and their needs are always taken care of. So if you have any kind of needs, the bank will definitely listen to you. I have not seen this kind of an attitude, a great attitude towards women in other organizations, but in public sector banks and especially in SBI, this is widely followed. And if you are a woman who wants to make a career, who wants to actually improve in the bank, you are going to get a lot of options, and your needs and your postings will be taken care of. So definitely it's a great workplace for women. Now the seventh and the most important part is the network. Now SBI thankfully has allowed me to meet the most intelligent people that I have had the fortune of actually associating with. I have so many friends from so many different states with such a high level of intelligence, vigor and passion for their work. All the young men and women that I have had the pleasure to meet in this bank have been extremely gifted and talented, and most of them are much more intelligent than me, and this is a network that you have for life. Now what you do with that is up to you. You can of course remain in the bank, build connections, but you can also move out of the bank. You can do a lot more if you move out as well, and this is something that nothing can actually match, because this network of friends that you have for life, they will always be with you, whether you decide to remain in SBI or you decide to leave it. So in conclusion, I would just like to state that there are a lot of possibilities for your life. This is 2020. It is an exciting time to be alive. I know there is a pandemic raging on, but just imagine, you are not sick, right? You have not been infected. You are still alive. You have so much potential that you want to give to the world. You have gifts, you have talents, and you can use them in the best possible manner. Don't limit yourself to a small vision. Of course, work for SBI, get selected, work in the bank, see where it can take you. If you don't like it, do something else. If you like it, then go up in the bank. It's all up to you. It's all open to you. And this is why I talked about a 10-year plan, a 10-year strategy for your life. Just think about the possibilities. A lot is possible. I want to end this video by talking about something I mentioned at the start. I mentioned haters, isn't it? I said that I actually wanted more haters. Now why is that? This is because a hater can actually fuel you so much more. Just imagine when a person actually hates you, when they say that you can't do something, doesn't it actually invigorate you? Doesn't it give you a passion that is incomparable to something else? If somebody says that they love you, okay, you feel good, your ego is satisfied. But when they say that they hate you, then they actually motivate you to do something better. And that is why I believe that hater fuel is something much powerful than lover fuel. On this note, let's end this video. From the next videos, we are going to continue again with the normal study related videos, and I hope that you are going to join me. I'll see you in the next one.